Hey friends, it's me, Erin, your friendly neighborhood energy alchemist, and I'm very excited to bring you my very first interview. In this interview, I'm talking to Gina and Brie. Both are mediums and they work together in tandem to bring clarity to people. I wanted to share their story with you and have them talk about their experience with mediumship so that you can see it's different for everybody. I hope you enjoy and let me know what you think.
Hello everybody, and thank you so much for being here today. I'm very, very excited. I have so many clients that ask me questions about mediumship, and as someone who is not necessarily the strongest in mediumship, I love to lean on the people I know who do have more of an expertise in that. So today we're going to talk to Gina and Brie, and these two ladies, I met them through TikTok. I've actually already interviewed Gina. Did I already interview you too, Brie?
Mm.
Yeah, I interviewed Gina a while ago, like a year or two ago, on YouTube, and have talked to her before. So I know she has a lot of great information. But the reason I'm interviewing the two of them together is because they do something I have not seen very often, which they work in tandem a lot. And I would love to let them give you an idea of what mediumship looks like to them, how they work with that, and how working together has changed things for them. So guys, thanks for being here with me. I really appreciate you taking all this time out of your schedule. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for having us, Erin. Thank you.
Good. All right, so I want to start with something a little bit personal, right? Can each of you share a little bit about the moment you first realized you were connected with spirit? Like what was happening in your life and how did that awareness unfold for you? So we'll start with Gina, just so we don't talk over each other.
Sure. So when I was younger, I would physically see spirit. And at that time, I did not know that that's what it was. It was just very scary to me. I slept at the edge of my parents' bed until I was 14 years old, because I was terrified. Um, and I kind of feel like I shoved it deep down. Um, and I knew there was something else there, but it felt very scary to me. I grew up Catholic as well, so it was just pushed down pretty hard.
Mhm.
My brother passed away about 2.5 years ago, and I think at that time I just kind of abandoned ship. I was like, I need to know. My brother was here, now he's not, and I need to know where he went because if he was energy and it can't be created or destroyed, he had to go somewhere. And I think that started to unravel everything I knew, everything I believed. And I held my arms open because I didn't have anything else. And I was really, really down as deep and low as a person could be. It was his death was very traumatic. He was missing a couple days before his death. We didn't know he was dead. It was horrible. I had to get his body from another country back to the United States and worked on that for 3 months. Had the U.S. Embassy, had my husband helping me, and it was very trying. And during that time is when I turned to spirit. A couple of my friends were into spirituality, and um, there's like a knowing in their eyes. Their eyes look very different, and I saw them differently. And I remember this one girl gave me a hug, and it was the best hug I had ever felt. It was this hug that it was, she knew my pain and she felt it with me. And we were on the same like plane. And from then on, I started watching mediums. I had a medium read for me and um, started practicing from there. And it has been the most wild and magical experience I could have ever imagined. I have met the best people with the best of intentions. Um, and I learned that I always like beat myself up. I don't know what that's about, but I always beat myself up and I realized that I'm not that bad of a person. That I am like I'm this soul inside of me is so beautiful and is so just trying to bloom. And I was just trying to push that down for so long. And once I started to let it bloom, it's really becoming a beautiful flower.
Do you feel a sense of freedom now that you have a different understanding of your connection or of spirit? Do you feel more of a sense of freedom than you did, for example, with your Catholic faith, I'm always curious about that with people because I believe religion has wonderful attributes to it, but I also feel like it can really serve to suppress individuality, individual connection, and trying to make us feel like we have to have an intermediary to communicate with higher self or source, whatever you want to call it. So I'm curious, did you feel that sense of expansion or freedom as well when you kind of transitioned into this type of belief?
Yes, 100%. 100%. And I went to Catholic school too. I mean, we were like every Sunday we were going to mass, and um I'm the type of person who doesn't like being told what to do, and I don't like to be put in a box. And I'll
Hmm.
try to get out at any point. And what's beautiful is spirituality and spirit can't be put in a box.
Yeah.
And it gives me that freedom. And, you know, spirit may mean something to me and mean something completely different to you, and that's okay. Um, and those are the type of people that I try to align with, that don't try to shove something in a box that doesn't belong in a box.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I didn't necessarily grow up religious, but I grew up tied to science, which was my religion. And the same thing kind of happened. I defined everything through the lens of religion or through the lens of science. And when I went through my awakening, because science had literally let me down, I felt like was forced to see beyond that piece. But in that discomfort, it gave me such a feeling of freedom that, wait, there's more. There's more. I'm not limited. It's more. I just need to see that side. So thank you for sharing that. I really love the way you tell your story and how your connection kind of came about, although it was tragically. I am curious, before we move on real quick to Brie, when you went to the medium the first time, did you connect with your brother?
I did. I was one of those people that medium hopped because I had to find out answers,
Yeah.
because there were a lot of, suspicious things that I didn't know, and a ton of things. But one of my main mediums that I connected with, she told me that there was something spiritual about me that, maybe I needed to explore, or, maybe I could be a medium, or there was some words like that.
Yeah.
And although they were very muddled and far away in the distance, I still heard them. And that truly opened it up, because I was like, wait, what? Because
Yeah.
this woman really changed my life, because she connected with my brother and didn't talk about how he died. And I was so focused on how he died. She talked about how he lived. And
Hmm.
that was awesome. So
Yeah.
that
That's
changed everything.
amazing, though. That's fantastic that she did that shift for you. I love that. All right. So, Bree, tell us a little bit about you and how you ended up where you are.
Well, that girl for one. I was raised slightly different, even though Gina and I have a lot of parallels in our story, but I wasn't raised religious. My Nana was raised me alongside with my dad, and she was very spiritual. Very, like, she was a professional astrologer, like in the 50s, and so that wasn't really. But so I knew about this stuff. I wish I paid a little bit more attention, because now I'm kind of relearning everything now. But I remember seeing spirit when I was a child. Very, very slightly. I don't remember a lot about my childhood. I'm still kind of digging into that with this whole journey. But I know there was something there. And I know the last time I saw spirit was I was sleeping at my Nana's house. And that was the last time I ever slept at my Nana's house, because it scared the absolute crap out of me, that it was scary. But anyway, so transition into when I'm really noticing the spiritual world on TikTok. And it was about a year after my Nana had passed. I was desperate to have her come through. I was actually on, and I was waiting for like another medium to come through and see if my Nana would come, and she wasn't on. And I randomly find Gina, and she was about to hop off, and I was like, are you doing any more readings? And she immediately connects with my Nana. Like, it was just, I'm not going to cry during this. Um, it was insane, and what she gave me. And even though, like, I was a believer, I was a believer, and it's still, I was shaking, I was bawling, I was like, it was intense. And then she gave me another one, a couple of days, weeks, whatever later, and that's when she told me that there was something spiritual about me. And so it's funny the way that Gina really started tapping into her. She got a reading. She said something spiritual about you. And then she did that for me. And it's just this beautiful full circle moment. That's not even full circle yet, because it's continuing to happen in our lives. But from that moment, that's when I literally the next day I bought a tarot deck, my first ever tarot deck. And then I started practicing and learning, and now I am here.
It really reminds me of that visual of someone holding a candle and then you walk over and it lights your candle, and then someone else walks over and it lights their candle, you know. And it's the idea that, you know, we're all here to work on our own light, but the default of that is, in doing that, it gets bright enough that other people can say, hey, let me do that too, and it naturally will spread, you know. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So you both experienced personal loss as a catalyst for your mediumship. So how did that grief open the doorway for you, and in what ways has it shaped the way you connect? I know we kind of talked about that, but specifically the idea of loss. Do you feel like, both of you, it required that amount of push for you to see this side? Do you feel like you were anchored where you were hard enough that it took something like that? Or how do you see the loss as the catalyst, I guess, is a better question. We'll start with Brie this time.
Truly the loss aspect of it is the foundation of my why, of like why I do this. I think you don't have to go through loss by any means for this to happen in your life, but I think it happens that way so frequently because there's just such a shift that happens in your life, and be wondering of what else is out there and what now, and maybe feeling like they're around or something, and not knowing how to connect the dots. And truly what Gina did for me in that reading, I mean, it's just, that's the foundation of why I do what I do now, in a sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
She was able to bring my Nana back to life, you know, in that moment, and to validate everything that I've been thinking and feeling.
Are you guys there?
Know that shift and that emptiness that you feel, and where else do you go, you know? So
yeah. You know, for me, I kind of tagging on to that, I was so anchored in the idea of science that I think it absolutely took a monumental event to cause me to shake that belief. Because I mean, just realistically speaking, in my undergraduate studies, I wrote a terrible, nasty paper about Doreen Virtue and how crazy she was. And, you know, she was a huge leader in the spiritual world. But at the time, I was so anchored in that belief that I could not see the possibility that that was true. And sometimes I think for people who have strong beliefs, their awakening has to be impactful like that. I've seen people that their awakenings are nice and soft and they sort of roll into it. But more often than not, I see people that it's like a shove, you know? And Gina, I'm really curious how you saw that shift. Did it feel like a shove, or did it feel like a natural transition for you? Or how did it feel for you?
It felt like a shove off the side of a cliff. But when I landed, it felt like home. Like it felt like I was always supposed to be here, and it's like I finally found where I belong. And I feel like I've struggled with that my entire life. Like I feel like everybody always knew what they wanted to do, and I was always like, how do you know that? Like I never feel like I'm, you know, my puzzle piece never fit any of these places, and it fits here. And I think that me going through this tragedy, this loss, it helps me also connect with people that have also gone through the same. And and like Bree said, it's like you don't know how it feels until you go through it.
Right.
And to be able to help people through that time in their life, or to even commiserate with them, is just so, I'm just so grateful.
Yeah. Shared experience is important. We all feel so alone all the time that when you find someone who says, no, I've been there and I know how you feel, it really helps to soften things, you know. At least that's how it feels for me.
yeah,
Mhm.
really great.
So you two really are, you kind of have a very unique bond between the two of you. And I'm really excited about this. Mediums don't often work together. You know, I don't normally see a pair of people live on TikTok. So what inspired you to work together, and what brought you to this point where you are now? Whoever wants to answer.
We didn't really plan it. Just like anything else in the spirit world. It's just like spirit kind of leads you there. I feel like it's something where we got so close and connected, and we started practicing together and meditating together, and then we just did it one day and realized that it just flowed so well together. And there are some reasons that we know why, and a lot of reasons that we have no idea why, but it just happens. And it's not something we sought out for, but it's been really, really cool to experience.
So did it start out kind of as like Gina helping you to get in? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit. And then we started meditating together, and then realizing that it's almost like, you know how spirit like works with like what you have as like your database.
Yeah.
Your personal experiences, how you view things, and all of that is like what spirit uses to work with you. Well, spirit works with Brie and I the same way, because we have so many shared similar experiences, and like abandonment wounds, and a lot of, it really is crazy. It really is crazy. We were born 10 years apart, and it's just wild. Some of the things that, the similarities blow me away. They also blow my husband away. And he's like, Brie can do that too. He's like, I don't even know why I'm asking you that, because I should just expect that now. I'm like, I know. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
But it's like a beautiful dance though, because sometimes I'm like, what is spirit trying to tell me with this? And then Brie is able to tap in and understand it. And then it is like a little bit of a beautiful dance. And it kind of came about from us meditating together, or we play games a lot to try to strengthen our abilities. Yeah. So,
that's very similar to Heather and I's story. Heather and I owned the wellness center together, and we came together. We met in August and opened our center in December, and I was gone a whole month in between there. But when we came together, there were so many things that were unbelievably connected. For example, I'm from Richmond, Virginia. She's from Chicago, Illinois. Her husband at the time was from Richmond, Virginia. My husband is from Chicago, Illinois. That's weird.
mm-hmm.
There were so many little things like that just were, it made it impossible for us to dismiss the connection. And I think sometimes that's necessary. You have to see. People are so quick to say, oh, it's a coincidence. Oh, it's a coincidence. I'm sorry. This is a big state, a big country. And to think that her husband not only comes from the same small town I'm from, but that we had friends in common in high school, that's incredible. There are, there was a ton of little things like that. But for her and I, it wasn't that we were similar. We were opposite, just like that. Her husband was from Richmond. I was from Richmond. Everything was opposite for us. I'm very, I call myself very farm girl. I'm very conservative. I don't wear makeup. I don't color my hair. She loves bright colored hair. She wears a ton of makeup, just part of her personality. We were totally opposite. But when we came together, there was something in that combination of energy that fueled both of us forward. And I think people get very concerned about collaboration or working with someone because they're afraid to be judged. They're afraid someone's going to say, no, you're wrong. But it's not about that. It's about realizing that it's everything and that it can all work together. And I love seeing you guys do that, because I think it really reinforces the idea that this is not about gatekeeping. This is about working together and realizing that we're all part of the same thing. So I love that you sort of do that and help people with that. So from your perspective, how does working as a duo benefit the person receiving the reading?
I think it goes back to what we're talking about and what Gina said about the database. And we are so similar. A lot of people, they'll see us and like, are you guys twins? Are you guys sisters? And although we were in a past life, we are also two very different people and have lived different lives, regardless of the parallels we have in our lives. And we are kind of like you and Heather, like we are this yin and yang, because while we are similar, there's a lot of differences in how we act. And she is feisty and bold and will say what she is thinking, and I am not,
Right, and you're me and she's Heather.
Yes, and so it's also, the beauty lies in how we're alike, but also in how we're different, and how spirit can use both of our databases to have this full, complete rounded reading in a sense, like she'll say a show or a movie I never heard of in my entire life. And that's exactly what the sitter needed to hear. And then maybe I'll come in there with my clairsentience and feel some kind of emotion that connects with that specific memory or show or something of that. And it's just, it makes it unique and fun.
Yeah, it's like having an extra dictionary, having two
Yeah,
dictionaries instead of
Yeah.
one. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. I love
And
that. What about
sometimes
Gina?
there's like
What do you
a
have to
little,
say about that? Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
oh, no, no, no. Sometimes there's like a little bit of like a lull when someone's reading, like it's, you have to kind of look at it from a human perspective too. It's like there's like a little bit of a lull. And like with our readings, there's never a lull. Like it's like while I'm connecting, she's talking, and while I'm connecting, it's like the back and forth. And it's just constant information to where we're like talking over each other sometimes, and it's the energy almost builds, and it builds for the sitter as well. um and they get excited that their loved one is coming through, because the personality too, I feel like, is very important to give to the person.
Mhm.
And I think that Brie does an excellent job, feeling into those types of things and really digging deep. So I think that we both offer different things in different ways, and it just kind of meshes, kind of works well.
That's awesome. So, on a personal level, what has the partnership meant for you? Like, how has it benefited you on a personal, in your journey, in your connection, in all those pieces?
Besides her changing my entire life. um,
I mean, is it kind of like going to the gym? Like, is it like having a workout buddy to motivate you to continue to do that? Is it give you new perspective? I mean, you're talking about it expands your dictionary, but for you on a personal level, when you're learning about your connection, does it help to have her perspective to point out, well, maybe it means this, maybe you're not seeing the full picture, that kind of thing, I guess is what I'm asking.
I think it's made me realize how I'm gonna cry. It makes me realize how important it is to have people and to have whether it's one or 20 or whatever it is, because one thing that I still struggle with, but would have struggled with 1,000 times more, is confidence in myself and my abilities, and the lack of validation sometimes we have in the spirit world, because our human self wants that 3D, validation, confirmation that something is true, and you have to practice not getting that and still being sure about yourself and spirit, and having, whether it is in a reading or just us practicing and meditating together, having someone there to also kind of like that third party, like the outside perspective of like, well, have you thought about maybe this? And it's just the amount of epiphanies that I get when I talk to her, even about regular ass, sorry for cussing, things. It's just, it's incredible. So I think we talk a lot about, Gina and I, like how fast paced this has all been for us, this journey, how much we've learned in a short amount of time. And I do think it's because of the constant push and challenge and support we give each other. And it just feels like it's been like, I don't even know the right word for it, like my head just spinning around, but in like the best way possible. Gina, you want to
And
say?
I love too that we don't co-sign each other's like BS
Yeah.
almost. I feel like that we're like held accountable. It's like the most healthy relationship I've ever been in, Brie. But it's like it's almost like this um
Mirror.
it's this mirror, but it's also this feeling of not being alone, and for another human to remind you of who you truly are when you cannot see it for yourself, when you are scared to reach out to anybody else because that's the last thing that you want to do, is just having a sister in all of this, that will pick you up when you are down over and over and over again, but will be your biggest cheerleader when you are standing on top of that mountain, is like, and that is how I see our relationship, and where we are now and where we've come from. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's important to have someone that when you're having a rough day to say, hey, it's okay. It's just a rough day. Just give it a minute. It'll be all right. What do you want to talk about? You know, and I
Mhm.
think as a society, we're getting more and more separate from each other. And that's painful and hard when you're trying to go through something like this. So I love that you have that. So I want to talk a little bit about mediumship itself,
Yeah.
right? So mediumship comes in many different forms. I've seen people, videos of people who have ectoplasmic mediumship, people who have full body trance mediumship, awake mediumship, all these different types of things. Can you talk about your unique styles and then kind of how you recognize that? And are you tapping into different pieces as you continue to grow? Are you expanding, or do you feel like you've kind of found your like wagon wheel niche?
I think for me, it's kind of ever expanding.
Yeah.
There have been some things that I have at the beginning when I was opening myself up. You know, if somebody had cancer, for example, like my stomach would turn and I would physically feel like I had to go like get sick. And after that happened for a couple months and feelings like that, you know, say if somebody got into a car accident and, you know, I would feel this like blunt force trauma or I would feel those physical things. I don't feel those as much anymore. And sometimes I am grateful that I don't, but I'm also grateful for the feelings because it is that extra validation and it's that extra something that I can give to the sitter. But sometimes I feel like I struggle on just keeping myself as open as possible because those things do happen. I'll get accents. I'll start talking funny or talking with a lisp or not talking at all, and the person is mute or the person couldn't talk, which is also just so interesting. Um, but I feel like I would like to explore that a little more, that side of my mediumship, because as much as sometimes like it kind of makes me like a little bit uncomfortable and I think spirit knows that, that's why they're like, okay, we're not going to make her feel this stuff anymore because it's a little too much for her. um I do want to explore that a little more. I don't know if I want to go full on with the what did you say, Erin? The
The ectoplasm and the trance
yes,
mediumship,
yes,
and
I've seen videos on that and I don't know if I want to go that far, but
that just fascinates me. Ectoplasm absolutely fascinates me. I would love to see it in person, but it has to happen in a dark, completely dark room.
yeah,
So, you know, it's one of those very interesting things. What
yes.
about you, Brie? What kind of things, what kind of sensations do you experience when you're receiving? Do you see like physical outside of yourself? Do you see it in your mind's eye? Do you feel it in your body? What kind of things do you experience?
So, similar to Gina in the beginning, I was a lot of body sensations. I remember the first time I ever felt that. It was actually really cool. It was in the middle of a tarot reading. I hadn't really done much mediumship on my lives yet, but I was doing a tarot reading, and all of a sudden, my left chest starts to tingle in a way that it never has before. And immediately, I knew someone had breast cancer, and her grandmother had passive breast cancer. And so, and towards the beginning of it. And I feel like spirit kind of does that because at the end of the day, like they're also our teachers, you know? And so to kind of help ease us into it and validate some of the information. And so now it's turned more into memories and emotions and other things besides just the death that Gina was kind of talking about. Um, and now I very clairvoyant. I see a lot of things with my third eye, just like my daydreaming little movie scene here. That's primarily a lot of what I see, or in my senses. I hear a lot. This is like it's nonstop. I hear like that's probably my strongest one, honestly. Um, but I still do feel things like I'll just feel like a little tinge like in my stomach, or like actually a lot of times they'll give me a little like almost like there's a bug on me if they have like a tattoo like I remember like on their calf or on their arm, and I'll feel that and it'll tell me if there's some kind of significant tattoo in that area. But it's mainly I'm hearing, and they use a lot of like they'll show me my grandfather's plaid shirt and they had a picture, you know, in the plaid shirt and stuff like that. But it's always changing, and I mean it's literally always changing. I'll go through phases where I don't see a dang thing and I have to trust just what I'm feeling solely, which is hard. But I don't think I'll ever have a final groove. And old me wouldn't have liked that. New me loves that because it's exciting. It's exciting to me.
Yeah.
And
Well, it implies that you're still growing, right? Like if everything was done, if you never expanded, you would be done. And as beings of energy that can never be done, it wouldn't be logical to think that you're going to fit, you know? That's really interesting. I love that. So I think what a lot of people run into, with a lot of my clients run into, is they have a picture in their head of what a medium looks like, how it should portray itself, what it should feel like. And I think that can really serve to block us. And I think it comes from a lot of pop culture. So what kind of things can you offer to people to let them know that mediumship is not necessarily what you see out there? Like, what kind of advice do you have for people? Let's go with Gina first.
I think, I think, like even using like your intuition, which I would say kind of like comes before mediumship, is you're already doing it. Everybody's already doing it. So whatever you look like, that's what that looks like. That's what a psychic looks like. You just don't know you're doing it yet. And they think that it's like this other voice that comes in and is talking to you. And maybe for some people, that's how it works. But for me, it does not work like that. It is my voice. And it's almost being able to tell the difference between whether it is my brain, or I like to say like my heart, or spirit. But people are already doing it. And it's almost just like another next level. It's just like another level of it with mediumship, is connecting to another level. But we actually, and I'm sure this is like a segue, but are working on helping people with their intuition and growing that and realizing where that different voice is. And it's the best feeling when you see someone's face when they realize it for the first time. It is like, I feel like I've seen a baby being born.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Yes.
It's the best.
Yes.
So yeah. So that's what we're kind of working on
Absolutely.
next.
I tell people all the time, when people ask me, why do I do what I do? Why do I teach spirituality? And I always tell them, because when I was teaching medicine at the university and I would sit down across from a student who was struggling with something, it brought zero satisfaction to either of us if I just said, here's the answer. But when I sat down with them and I helped them talk their way through it by saying, okay, that makes sense, but what about this? And what about this? The minute they got it, that moment of recognition was all empowerment. They pull all that power into themselves and they become proud of themselves and they see their own potential. That is what I'm looking for. That is what I am constantly chasing, because that is my favorite feeling in the world, is to see that across from me. Okay, you got it. Yay.
Yeah.
You know? So I absolutely I completely resonate 100% with what you're saying. What about you, Brie? What is piece of advice you could give somebody if they're thinking about working on their mediumship, or working to like incorporate more of that?
don't rush it. Don't rush it. And honestly, practice, practice, practice. And it's not what people genuinely want to hear. They want to know there's like a secret sauce, trick, spell that you can do to open you up and all this stuff. But it's realizing where maybe you are blocking yourself from feeling. That was a big problem I had for so long, and literally just recently had another breakthrough with, in ways that I didn't know that I was suppressing or not feeling or whatever, because this is all about feeling, and it's building trust in yourself, because again, it all comes back to trust and feeling, and it's something that you have to build, especially since you probably started this out of a maybe grief or something of that nature, where you're out of whack, you're out of, it's not rushing it. It's practice and not putting limitations on yourself and or spirits, not logically talking yourself out of like seeing signs and stuff like that and validation. If that feels like a sign, if that feels like spirit to you, 10 times out of 10, it is. And so it's not letting this control this, and really being gentle, like so gentle with yourself when you are starting this, because it's going to bring a lot of stuff up in your life, past, present, fear of the future. And it is to be so gentle with yourself, and really try to have as much fun with it and not rush the process, because you can't rush spirit. You can't tell them a dang thing. So you have to really just ride it. but it's a fun ride. Like it really is. It's a fun, and I have full body chills. It's a fun ride, and it's a ride that's literally changed my entire life. So
That's
highly
awesome.
suggest it.
That's awesome. So I have kind of a fun question for you.
Wow.
What is the either strangest or most surprising way that spirit has come through to you? We'll start with Brie this time.
Oh heck. God, there's so many. Okay, let's see if I can pinpoint one. I'm just thinking of an example for Gina. Hold on.
Do you want me to go first so you can think about it?
Please.
Because
Yeah,
I have
okay.
mine.
I know.
Yeah, go.
I remember I was like going back and forth and I'm like, am I a medium? Am I not a medium? I don't like ghosts. Like I was just so like scared to be like talk to dead people. It was this whole feeling inside of me, but I knew there was spirit, and it was kind of like at the very beginning. And I was laying in bed and I said, okay, I'm done. I'm done. And in my head, my husband was sleeping. Okay. TV was off. Kids are sleeping. And I said, if I am a medium, please give me a sign. I'm done thinking about it. I'm done, going about it. No joke. Blaring music loud enough for me to sit up in my bed and be like, what? And nothing was on. Not a thing was on. And I laid back down, and then I felt like this male presence over me right away. And I was like, okay. I was at, oh, got kind of scared. I was like, okay. I get it.
That's awesome. You asked and you received.
Blaring.
That's awesome. Were you able to think of anything?
To be honest, like when it comes to spirit, there has been a lot of wild things that have happened that I get validated, like very, very, very specific things. But one I feel called to share, which maybe not is not as exciting, but it just feels important right now because there is, how do I phrase this? It was more so a sign that I received from my spirit guides, and the timing of it. And there's a being that I was told was very much around me, and I was feeling wanting to work with. Gina brought this being up as a spirit guide for me, like very sure about this. And I was like, well, can this actually be my guide? And I was very confused about all of this. I went on a road trip shortly afterwards and I asked, I'm like, okay, if this is true, if this is who you are and you're here to work with me, show me a double number on a license plate. Because I've never ever seen that, like a 1212, a 1010. And I didn't see it. And I was on like a 5-hour drive, thought I was going to see it there, if anything, because I don't ever leave my house. I was in the middle of a very hard family thing going on the phone, and I was out of the house, which I normally am not. And in that moment, I looked up and it was emotional. And I saw 1313 on the license plates. And that number specifically is very tied to me and this being. And that was my validation, especially in the moment and how it happens with this the toughest wound, the deepest wound that I have is when she showed up. And I wasn't expecting it, but she showed up when I needed it. And it was just, it was really cool. It was really, really cool. And I really needed it. And so I felt like sharing that one.
I love that. I had a very intense sign once that I've never told anybody about, but I was driving one day and I was all in my head and I was doubting everything I was doing. Very similar to you, Brie. I said, all right, give me a sign. Just like Gina, give me a sign. I'm done. Give me a sign. And I kid you not, a car merged in front of me and the license plate said HI space AR space IN. Hi, Aaron.
Oh, full body chills.
And I'm literally driving and I'm like,
what do you even
like, I'm sorry, it was one of those moments where I can't explain that. I cannot explain that. I had to be like, okay, all right, I'm done. Yes. Oh, yep. All right. So I think it's important that we talk about these things because they happen all the time and we're very quick to dismiss them. We're very quick to say, oh, it's a coincidence that all the lights turned green when I suddenly thought I need to hurry home, or it's a coincidence that this showed up or that I found a feather. or whatever. I found a feather one time stuck inside of a shirt that'd been hanging in my closet for 2 years. I put it on and something's poking me. I look down, there's a feather. I'm like, where in the world did this come from? Like these things happen and they always happen all the time. Something that I've come to understand is that as our higher self is leading us through this, that we sort of plant little road signs, little green flags to say, this is a good idea. This is a good idea. And so when you have these synchronicities, it's just your higher self trying to encourage you. Yes, yes, keep going. Yay, pay attention. You're doing a good job. So I think it's so important that people who, that I look to as professional mediums, the two of you can say it happens to you too. It helps to have validation. I think we try to put a lot of emphasis on don't look for validation, but the realism is it helps. It helps to hear that it's true. I think it really helps. So thank you very much for sharing that. So heading towards wrap up, I want to know, what are you guys working on now? Are you doing something together as a duo? What's in the pipeline for you guys? And tell people where they can find you.
So right now we are starting our classes back up shortly. So our classes are working on your intuition. It is very basic. It is very entry level. And we work on all of our clairs, but we kind of break it down. It's kind of almost like preschool, right? So you want to go back to the very beginning. What does red feel like? What does blue feel like? Not because someone tells you that color is blue, but because it feels like blue. And kind of just starting classes and I lost my train of thought right there with the color blue. Stuck. I'm like, wait, what does that feel like?
That later.
But, so if someone wanted to sign up for your class, where can they find that?
So they can email us at Gina and Brie, which is GINAANDBRIE @gmail.com. And basically it's just teaching you how spirit works with you. Mm-hmm. Like, we are not going to tell you how to do it, because spirit is going to work with you in the way that spirit knows how. And that's the beautiful part, is you go on that path yourself, but you have us to help you along that path.
Yeah. Because I was very confused with a lot of things that I saw or felt, or I heard that it has to be this way, and I heard it has to be this way. And I understand there are definitely things around mediumship and talking to spirit and stuff like that, but we all communicate with it differently. We all have stronger or not as strong abilities based on our lived experiences, based on just who we are. And we want to, it's like you can give someone a fish, or you can teach them to fish, so they have it for the rest of their life. And that's kind of what we want to do. So you don't have to go get readings, from everybody, and you can do this for yourself, and you can feel that empowerment and sureness and self and spirit. And it really makes life fun again. Like, it makes it fun, and seeing these signs and knowing that what you're feeling is true, and that I should buy that house, or I should go on that trip, or I shouldn't. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it all comes down to intuition. And I think so much we overlook the fundamentals of really being a human. Like, we were always meant to use this tool within us, and we're just trying to help that come back alive, so you can figure out where it takes you in life, whether it be mediumship or whatnot. So
yeah. Do you both still do private sessions?
Yes, we do. And we also do joint private sessions as well. And if you'd like one, you can also just email that same email, GinaandBrie @gmail.com.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. So last question. What do you wish more people understood about mediumship, especially those who feel they might be intuitive but aren't sure what to trust?
You are intuitive. You are. Everyone has the ability to communicate with energy. This phone is energy. The chair is energy. Spirit is energy. This is the most natural, normal thing we have on this planet. And we all have the ability to communicate with it. It is just learning how you do it and strengthening it, practicing it. Everybody has the ability to communicate with energy. You are not crazy. Okay. Everyone can.
Anything to add, Gina?
Mine would just be, don't be scared, don't be fearful. I think that there are a lot of maybe negative connotations around mediumship or talking to people who have passed over. But I think that going in and being fearless and knowing that spirit has got you, will help you very much on your journey.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing I'm going to add to that is I want everyone to remember that your source is never going to be mean to you. It will always love you, encourage you, and want you to move forward. So if you are doubting yourself, I want you right now, everyone, to understand that's coming from your human side. 100%. Your higher self will never say mean things about you or anyone else. It will never push you to hurt yourself or anyone else. It might push you into an uncomfortable area because it wants you to grow, but it will do it in a loving way. It won't do it in a way that reduces you or makes you feel small. It's about empowerment. So I think that's the only thing I would add to that.
Okay.
Guys, thank you. This has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you, Erin.
appreciate you taking time with me. And I hope that people reach out to you if they have questions, if they want to take your class. I couldn't encourage people more to do that. Mediumship has been something I've always been fascinated with. And while it's not one of the strongest pieces of my spirituality, it's something that comes in every once in a while. You know, I've seen my own dad, which was really interesting for me, and it changed things, but I've only ever seen him once, and he came to say goodbye and then he was gone. And I've come across a couple other little things, but the more I tap into it, the more I recognize how special that connection is, to be able to give someone the opportunity to say goodbye when they felt like they didn't, or to wrap up a heartstring, or just to know that the person they loved is not gone, that they're still there. I think you carry such an important job. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you. Thank you for
All right, you guys, I'm going to end the recording. Stay right there.